Welcome to the second episode of our series. Today we will address a key decision faced by every yacht owner, whether to register the yacht as private or commercial. This is a decision that will affect formalities, maintenance costs, legal obligations, and tax issues. In particular, we will discuss the consequences of choosing a private versus commercial status and how it translates to VAT and other charges. We will look at the advantages and disadvantages of both solutions and also suggest who benefits more from which option. Let's get started. The first option is recreational registration, meaning a yacht under a private flag. A private yacht is used solely for the recreational purposes of the owner and their guests. It cannot be legally used for profit or rented out to third parties for payment. This yacht is treated as our personal property, comparable to a private used passenger car. Let's look at the features and consequences of this form of registration. Registration of a recreational yacht is usually shorter and less complicated than a commercial one. For example, in Malta, the private registration process takes about 4 to 6 weeks, while the commercial one can take 8 to 12 weeks. In Poland, it is enough to use the REGA 24 system to register a yacht within 2 weeks. There are also fewer documents and certificates required because the regulations dedicated to profit-making activities do not apply to us. Maintaining a private yacht is cheaper in terms of administrative fees. Registration and inspection fees are lower, often a few €100 per year, and in Poland, the registration fee is only 80 złotych. Insurance may be cheaper and the yacht does not have to meet strict commercial standards, which reduces inspection costs. Some technical requirements, such as those concerning rescue equipment or staffing requirements, are relaxed compared to commercial units. Recreational yacht is not subject to parts of international conventions concerning safety and working conditions at sea. For example, the MLC Convention 2006 is mandatory for commercial vessels but not for private ones. Similarly, safety code requirements such as SOLAS and MARPOL do not have to be fully met by a yacht used solely for recreational purposes. This means fewer inspections and easier daily operation. It sounds pretty good, doesn't it? However, a private banner also has its limitations and potential drawbacks. The most obvious limitation: we cannot legally charter or rent out a private yacht. Therefore, the yacht does not generate any income and all maintenance costs are borne by the owner. Ports, fuel, service, crew, all of this is financed out of our own pocket, and the yacht becomes a typical piggy bank. Of course, everything depends on the size of the vessel. For smaller units, such as up to 20 meters, where we do not need a crew, this may be the best solution because the maintenance costs will be minimal. When purchasing a yacht for private use in the European Union, we must pay full VAT on its value. The rate depends on the country, for example, around 20 to 25%. It means that if we want to sail in EU waters, the yacht must have VAT settled, that is the so-called VAT-paid status. During port inspections, we must be able to prove VAT payment, usually through a VAT invoice from the purchase or an import customs clearance certificate. As private users, we do not have the possibility to recover VAT included in operational expenses. Every fuel fill-up, every invoice for a marina or repair contains VAT that we cannot deduct. Just like a private driver pays VAT on fuel for the car and does not get it back. A private yacht is treated as a consumer good, not a business tool, so we will not see any tax reliefs on the costs. Although no one privately imposes limits on swimming, there are certain things we cannot do legally. For example, organizing commercial cruises with paying passengers, corporate events for a fee, and similar activities. Everything must be non-commercial in nature. If a friend contributes to the fuel, fine, but an organized trip with participation in costs may be considered commercial activity if an inspection reveals that it was actually a hidden fee. The law clearly distinguishes private use from commercial use. Summarizing the private banner thread, it is a good solution if we want to use the yacht only for our own pleasure and value simple rules and lower fees. However, we must consider that we finance the entire maintenance ourselves, and when purchasing and operating, we pay VAT like regular consumers. Now let's see how the commercial option differs from this one. The second option is commercial registration, that is, a yacht under a flag intended for profit-making activities. We can use this yacht for charters, rentals, passenger transport for a fee. In short, to treat it as a source of income. It opens new possibilities but also comes with serious responsibilities. Let's look at the details. Main advantage: a commercial yacht can generate income for itself. If we decide to charter our vessel, we can achieve significant revenue during the season. It is estimated that a heavily rented yacht can generate an annual revenue of around 15–20% of the yacht's value. This means that a yacht worth, for example, 10 million euros can generate an annual revenue of 1.5 million to 2 million euros from charters. The money can cover maintenance costs and, with good occupancy, even generate profit for the owner. A commercially registered yacht is treated as a fixed asset of the company used to provide transportation services. According to European Union regulations, such entities can benefit from VAT exemption when acquiring or importing into the Union. VAT is not payable on the purchase of a yacht, provided that it is used exclusively for business purposes. Instead, VAT is charged to customers at the stage of the charter service in the country where the charter takes place. Therefore, many large yachts sailing around Europe are formally owned by companies and are registered as commercial. This allows avoiding a one-time VAT payment on a purchase worth, for example, several million euros. Since the yacht is becoming a business tool, the owner can deduct VAT from operational expenses related to the activity. Fuel for charter, ports and marinas during cruises, spare parts, service. All these costs include VAT, which the company can recover as part of its business activities. Effectively, the tax burden on costs is minimized, which significantly reduces the actual operating costs of a commercial yacht. Operating a commercial yacht usually involves hiring a professional crew. For charter clients, a certain level of safety and service is required. For the owner, it means that they do not have to sail the yacht themselves, but they must pay such a crew. The plus is easing the duties on board. The minus is the additional cost, which hopefully will be covered by charter income. It sounds tempting, the yacht earns no VAT on purchase. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. Commercial registration means more bureaucracy, higher fixed costs, and stricter regulations. Let's discuss these challenges. Obtaining a commercial flag is more complicated. You need to meet a number of additional requirements and obtain certificates. The process takes longer, for example, the previously mentioned 8 to 12 weeks instead of about 5 weeks. Inspections for compliance with the Commercial Yacht Code, safety certificates, radio certificates, fire protection, etc. will be required. The commercial yacht incurs higher fixed expenses. Registration fees and technical inspections are more expensive. Often annually, the amounts are in the range of several thousand euros. Insurance for a commercial yacht is higher. Certificates need to be renewed regularly. Audits need to be paid for. All of this makes the monthly cost of being in business significantly higher. Safety first, a commercial yacht must comply with international conventions and codes concerning commercial shipping. In practice, this means the need to adapt the unit to the requirements of regulations such as SOLAS, MARPOL, STCW, and MLC 2006. A yacht often must have a classification granted by a classification society, undergo regular inspections, and possess a minimum crew certification. For the owner, this means less freedom in modifications and operation. Every piece of equipment must meet standards. Deciding to use a commercial flag, we must mentally shift from "I have a yacht and I sail whenever I want" to a business approach. Every commercial yacht voyage should be registered as a charter or training trip. Even if the owner wants to go on a private cruise, it is often shown in the documents as a charter for himself. As a result, some bureaucracy arises even for a private trip on the water. The owner loses a bit of freedom in managing the yacht. Registering a yacht commercially just to avoid VAT and then using it exclusively privately may be tempting, but it's a very risky path. Tax authorities in the European Union are well aware of this trick. If a yacht does not conduct actual charter activities and benefits from commercial exemptions, it can be detained and thoroughly inspected. The famous case is that of Flavio Briatore and his yacht Force Blue, officially registered as commercial but used privately. It ended with the confiscation of the yacht and criminal tax charges against the owner. The message is clear: abuses are strictly punished, and it is not worth going down this path. Therefore, commercial registration is a serious commitment. We become the operator of a small passenger ship with all the consequences. We already know what characterizes a private flag and what a commercial one. The question is what to choose. The answer depends on your yacht usage profile and the goals you set for yourself. Let's consider a few scenarios. If you are buying a yacht mainly for yourself and your family, planning to spend holidays and weekends on it, and chartering is not an option, private registration would be better. It gives you peace and quiet, less paperwork, no complicated regulations to comply with, full control over the yacht. Yes, you will pay VAT on the purchase and will not recover VAT on costs, but you get something in return. No burdensome commercial obligations. This option is also usually preferred when you do not plan intensive swimming. Someone said that if you use the yacht less than 6 to 8 weeks a year personally, it's better to stick with a private one. In other words, charter makes sense when the yacht has a chance to earn for the rest of the season. If you have the approach, the yacht should generate income and plan to charter it for a significant part of the year, then commercial registration might be the right choice. Let's assume you sail yourself for 2 to 3 weeks, and for the remaining 15 to 20 weeks, the yacht is rented out. In such a situation, charter revenues can cover crew costs, port fees, service charges, and even generate profit. Avoiding one-time VAT on the purchase of an expensive unit is also a huge financial relief at the start. However, remember that this option requires actual business activity, perhaps setting up a company, hiring people, collaborating with charter brokers. This is a sailing business, not just a hobby. And what if we want to have our cake and eat it? That is, use the yacht privately, but sometimes rent it out. In the European Union, the division is quite rigid, either or. However, there are some hybrid solutions outside the EU. An example is the program Yacht Engaged in Trade, available under the flags of some non-EU countries, e.g. the Marshall Islands, Cayman Islands. It allows private yachts to occasionally charter, provided that commercial requirements are met. This yacht remains registered as private, but can charter up to 84 days a year on EU waters. Of course, it must then continuously meet commercial standards, even if most of the time it serves the owner. This is for those who occasionally want to rent a yacht but do not want to register it permanently as commercial. Some countries and registries are trying to accommodate ship owners by allowing the change of a yacht status from private to commercial and vice versa. In practice, it can be complicated and costly, for example, requiring temporary certificates for a commercial voyage. For example, in some European jurisdictions, it is possible to apply for a one-time permit for a commercial cruise of a private yacht, but this is rare and subject to many conditions. Generally, tax officials look skeptically at such maneuvers and will require evidence that we are actually complying with the regulations during this switching. The most important advice: don't mess around outside the law. If the yacht is sailing within the EU and the owner is an EU resident, you have two safe options. Either pay VAT and keep the yacht privately, or honestly operate a charter business in full compliance with regulations. All gray areas, sooner or later, may come to light. Tax offices analyze, for example, whether the yacht had real external clients or was just going in circles with the owner pretending to charter. It's better to sleep peacefully than to explain yourself in court. We see, therefore, that the choice between a private banner and a commercial one is a strategic decision. If the priority is no hassle and pure recreation, let's choose the private one. If we want to use the yacht commercially but with full awareness of the requirements. For the undecided, there are some niche intermediate solutions, although mainly outside the EU jurisdiction. Finally, let's summarize the issue that keeps many of you awake at night: VAT tax in both yacht usage models. It is often a decisive factor in choosing a banner, so let's break it down into its fundamental components. Private yacht and VAT. When registering privately, the VAT-paid rule applies to us. When purchasing a new yacht in the European Union, we pay VAT on the full value, for example 23% in Poland or 20% in France. If we bring a yacht from outside the European Union, we must declare it for customs clearance and pay import VAT. The VAT paid so far grants the yacht the status of VAT paid, which should be documented. This is important for inspection. Proof of VAT payment is our passport in the waters of the European Union. During private use, we no longer charge any VAT because we do not provide services. We also have no obligation to file any tax declarations related to the yacht. Simply from a tax perspective, the yacht is our property like a house or a car. The disadvantage is the lack of VAT deductions on maintenance costs. When fueling with €1,000, there may be about €200 of VAT, which we cannot recover. The same goes for each invoice for the service or port. Gross is the final cost for us. Commercial yacht and VAT, everything changes in the commercial structure. The yacht is owned by the company, which uses it to provide charter services. Thanks to this, under certain conditions, a zero VAT rate can be applied to the purchase or import of a yacht. It is treated as a means of transport for business activities, exempt from VAT upon purchase. Note, this exemption only makes sense if the yacht is actually used exclusively for commercial purposes. If we use it privately even once, we lose this status and an overdue VAT becomes payable. Next, during operation, each charter for the client is subject to value-added tax in the country where the service begins. For example, the charter starts on the French Riviera. You need to add 20% French VAT to the charter price. The cruise departs in Croatia, 13% Croatian VAT, and so on. The company operator settles these taxes with the tax authorities in the respective countries. It often requires VAT registration or a tax representative in the charter country. On the other hand, the company can deduct VAT paid on expenses. Fuel for the charter will reduce the VAT payable. Invoices from ports as well. Commissions from intermediaries. All of this legally reduces the payable tax. In an ideal situation, VAT from costs will largely offset VAT from charter invoices, reducing the final amount to be paid. It is worth mentioning that until recently, some countries, for example France and Italy, offered preferential treatment to charters departing onto international waters. It was assumed that if the yacht spends part of the time sailing outside the waters of the European Union, VAT can only be paid on that part of the cruise within the waters of the European Union. It allowed for a reduction of the effective VAT rate for the client. In 2020, the regulations were tightened. Now it is required to document the time spent outside the waters of the European Union in order to benefit from the VAT reduction. But that's a topic for a separate episode. Spoiler, we'll return to this in the 4th episode. It is important to know that tax authorities are closely monitoring the charter industry and are trying to close legal loopholes. In short, VAT is both a stick and a carrot. The state says you will pay the full VAT as a private user, or you will get an exemption and the possibility of deductions as a commercial entity, but then you actually have to run that activity and pay VAT on the services. Everyone must calculate what is more profitable for them and what they are willing to do. In today's episode, we guided you through the intricacies of choosing a private versus commercial flag. We discussed the differences in formalities, costs, obligations, and taxes for recreational and charter yachts. As you see, there is no one correct choice. Everything depends on your needs and plans. A private yacht is freedom and simplicity, but all costs are on your side. Commercial yacht is an opportunity for profit and tax relief, but also a business with all the requirements. It is important to make an informed decision and play fair according to the rules. If you have questions or personal experiences on this topic, share them in the comments. If you need individual advice, contact us. In the next episode, we will address another important issue. There was talk about leasing programs, right? Thanks for your attention and see you at the next meeting from our program.